to the Power Market Report. I'm Albert Liu. My guest today is Mike Vine, the founder of Sentinel Consulting and a co-founder of an exciting new blockchain-based startup company called Liberating. Mike, thanks for joining me today. It's a pleasure to talk to you again.
Pleasure to be here.
I want to talk about this company, but just before we get to it, uh, let's talk a little bit about Sentinel Consulting. What do you do at Sentinel, and who are the types of people that you serve?
Sentinel is a basically a marketing company, almost more like a media company. But we serve a variety of clients, generally in the pro-liberty space. Our longest client, sort of primary client, would be Schiff Gold, which is the Peter Schiff's bullion dealer. And we work with a variety of other companies trying to help them out and reach their target audiences.
Okay, and everyone watching is familiar with Peter Schiff and Schiff Gold. I want to talk about this startup company. It's very interesting. But first off, you're named on the webpage as the technology evangelist. It's kind of a very Guy Kawasaki-ish kind of title. Can you explain what your role is at the company?
Sure. So library is a very unusual venture. We're really breaking into new ground. I think the blockchain space, the Bitcoin space, is a lot like the internet was in the early 90s, where people can sort of see the potential. Most average people have just maybe heard about it, but really don't know what it's going to do. So, we're when a lot of companies talk about we were going to go out and revolutionize this or that. Well, this is a space where you actually do really have an opportunity to revolutionize, to build, to rebuild industries from the ground up. The same way that Netflix came along and rebuilt the video rental industry, and Blockbuster just couldn't exist anymore. So we're doing that with library, and again, it's in content similar to Netflix. But this time we're doing it in a decentralized way. So not only is it on the internet and cheaper, but it has no central gatekeeper. There's no big company like Netflix that's going to decide what you see and what you don't see and negotiate content licenses and so on. So my role as the technology evangelist, a lot of it's marketing and PR, traditional kind of stuff, but I really see it more as taking this message of what we're doing and broadcasting it to the world, letting people know, more than just buy our product, live differently.
Okay, and so let's get to this product. On the webpage, you say that you don't like middlemen, greedy rent seekers, and kleptocrats. Okay, so there's some pretty serious accusations here. Certainly in terms of middlemen, because this actually doesn't sound like you. I know you a little bit. This doesn't sound like your language. Middlemen, those can be brokers, right? Those can be people
Right.
providing services. Those could be people doing what you do at Sentinel. Certainly nothing wrong with a middleman so long as he's providing a service. However, when you talk about rent seeking and kleptocrats, you're talking about people who inject themselves as intermediaries that are not needed nor are they wanted. Is that the case here?
Yes, and I'm glad you made that point. You're right that I am passionate against generally the vilification of middlemen in general, and here we're saying that there are middlemen that are not increasing value, and we're going to replace them or supplant them so that people can avoid paying unnecessary, cuts of their transaction. Certainly in the media space, there are people that we would consider to be truly kleptocratic middlemen. You look at a cable company that goes in and negotiates a deal with a town that they can be the only people that run cable pipes. You look at, and then a lot of this is tied up with intellectual property. There's certain companies out there who are pro IP, and then they lock up content licenses and make the content artificially expensive for everybody else. Sign up independent artists into these complicated record deals when the artists really just want to get their stuff out to the public. Um, so yes, middlemen play a large role. I would say some of that language is simply pandering. We happen to know that this idea might be more appealing to people in kind of in a left mindset initially. People who the information wants to be free crowd sometimes leans a little left. So I think our messaging is going to take more of let's take power away from the corporations kind of tactic. But the end result is the same. We're not saying that Netflix didn't come along and provide tremendous value to their customers. We're just saying we can do even better. And there's I think one of the key pieces of what I'm calling the Web 3.0, this new completely decentralized internet that runs on blockchains, is that in the world we live in, unfortunately, centralization presents risks, certain risks that are just unavoidable. You can have the most benevolent company in the world, but if a government comes knocking and says, you need to take down that content, or we're going to shut down your bank account, or you need to stop accepting Bitcoin, or we're going to put you out of business, they make the fairly generally make the rational choice to continue on and deal with that. But that makes us all vulnerable. So I think you're seeing a trend of companies. Apple even has spearheaded this in a lot of ways to say, you know what, we're going to design systems that even we can't access because no one can be trusted with that much power. If we're having so much of our lives take place on the internet, there can be no one party that gets to see everyone's communications, that gets to know what everyone downloads, that gets, that's just too much power to have over your fellow man. So, with this and with content, we're seeking to decentralize all of that and eliminate the central authority.
Okay, so you've mentioned Netflix a couple times already. I assume that they're one of them. Uh, Amazon might be another.
Kindle Store,
YouTube.
yeah, that's another
Okay,
centralized place for ebooks.
so
iTunes for music.
right, and as far as what you say about leaning left, it sort of makes sense that you'd be trying to appeal to artists
Yes,
as the producers of content. I know that they even hate the word content, but artists who create art.
right.
Um, that would be at least one side of the audience, but a very important side because it starts with production. We're Austrian, so we have to recognize that. It starts with production. They're going to produce the material and disseminate it one way or another. Now, let's speak specifically about how Library is going to be superior to the other platforms. What kind of deal is the independent artist getting right now through YouTube, through all the other forms of distribution? What kind of
So
deal are they getting?
YouTube, yes, in terms of if you're an independent artist, you want to get your content, your art in front of the public. Your choices are you can go to YouTube. It's probably your best platform in terms of promotion. There's other small sites like Bandcamp. But basically, you're going to be going to a company that has their terms and conditions. You're going to agree to that, and you're going to get whatever reimbursement is part of their model. So for YouTube, I believe the reimbursement for once you get to that level that you're a YouTube partner is $100 per 10,000 views. That was the last I checked. Um, Not necessarily a lot. And if you're a niche uh, producer, if you produce something that some people are very passionate about, but doesn't necessarily have a huge audience, say stuff for libertarians, then your benefit would be some kind of micropayment model. And YouTube doesn't really offer that to you. You really have to get to that certain view threshold before they'll even talk to you about revenue sharing. Meanwhile, they're making a lot of money off of ads, even for those smaller videos. They're happy to have those videos on there, but they're not really sharing that with the artist. So Library allows for anyone to, when you publish a piece of content, you set a price, and that price is in our own cryptocurrency that's a part of the library network, and and then you can just start accepting payments. People download it, and it's out there for the world. The other advantage is a company like YouTube has to maintain servers to provide all that content. So when you upload a video, they do actually have a significant expense creating a space, storing that video, and then serving it up on demand. That's a tremendously bandwidth intensive process, space intensive process. So we've decentralized that aspect too. We have a network of hosts that anyone can sign up to be a host. You take your unused bandwidth, your unused hard drive space, and you start storing pieces of files that people upload. And every time someone downloads one of those pieces, you get a portion of that micropayment. So you actually start making money on your unused materials, which we know from economics should drive the cost down versus a dedicated solution.
Okay, and am I right in assuming that by using a proprietary currency, that's how your company is going to get paid through the processing of
That's
that?
our primary, yes, that's our primary way um, to make money off of this venture. We will be reserving 7.5% of the outstanding library credits at the end of the day. It also allows us to do a managed approach. So unlike Bitcoin, Bitcoin is meant to be, is we're going to put out this product and see what happens, see if people can find uses for it. This is much more of a crypto app or a blockchain app. We're trying to build a particular use case or experience for people, and the library credits are a piece of that. So we will actually subsidize people putting material on the network at first. We will When you sign up, you'll get a certain amount of credits just for trying it out. So it is a little bit more centrally planned, quote unquote, than your Bitcoin because we have an end goal in mind.
Okay. Do you have any case studies that someone might be able to use to compare? For example, someone making videos who's getting 1 million views a month on YouTube, maybe he's making $200 or something
Hmm.
ridiculous like that. Um, and I'm just pulling these numbers out of the
Sure.
air, but I know it's small. Do you have case studies for how this type of system would benefit the artist in that situation?
No, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think there's competing products,
right.
and I can't remember the names right now, but I have seen them where they do these case studies, and it's not it's not decentralized, it's not blockchain, it's still centralized, but it's just an alternative to
Hmm.
YouTube, and the artists are making a lot more money. Okay, can you talk about in particular the benefits of blockchain technology when applied to this use?
So blockchains allow for this completely decentralized ledger. That's basically what a blockchain is a ledger. In our case, the blockchain portion of it is where we're storing the metadata for the files. So there's these files. You upload a file. It gets encrypted and split into 1,000 pieces. Um, and then sent out to these hosts. Well, how do we find these pieces? Well, if we have a directory, a website, then we have introduced centralization. So the our blockchain keeps a record of where those pieces are, keeps the record of the decryption key, and so we're able to have the entire protocol function without any central point of failure.
On your website, you describe it as something like torrent marrying Bitcoin, something like
Right.
that.
That's right. And
Okay.
part of the utility of the library credits is that while they're being mined, they are also producing, adding to this blockchain to store the metadata. So it has not only does it allow us to have to build in certain incentives, but the mining of those allows the protocol to function.
Right. And it's interesting that when Bitcoin came out, it's a currency and payment system. People were thinking of it in those terms. Now, when I listen to people like you talking, and other blockchain related applications, it seems like the currency aspect has been reduced sort of to the means by which you incentivize people to make the system go, but the
Right.
uses are unlimited.
Right. And I think there is some merit to the old Austrian regression theorem argument that what is the ultimate use case for this money? Money has traditionally come out of having a commodity value and then becoming a token. And I think Bitcoin presented a challenge for Austrians to reconcile something that apparently had no end use. Uh, some people have said, well, maybe the regression theorem is wrong. I think that Bitcoin does have end uses, and people have discovered them from remittances to anonymous trading, so on, or pseudonymous trading. So there are uses, and the value, whether the value matches those uses, is an open question. I think the interesting thing about library is it very much will have an end commodity use, which is you need library credits to access content on the library network.
Right, and you and I have both witnessed people transacting in Bitcoin. There's a psychic benefit associated with using Bitcoin to some people where they value the transaction more than the actual good that they're exchanging for. Meaning people
Indeed.
buy drinks with Bitcoin, they're more happy that they use Bitcoin than with the drink that they're getting.
Right.
So that's definitely a direct use. Okay, so the fact that this is decentralized, the fact that you're using encryption, the fact that this is very difficult, if not impossible, to take down, has some serious consequences for IP. And so I suspect the founders are anti-IP in their philosophical views. Um, this is going to be a problem, though, isn't it? Because this is not just travel agents we're displacing here, as the internet did, or real estate agents, or this is big money.
Right. This
So
is this is this is Uber to taxi medallions. This is what we're doing
yeah,
to
but it's not
the.
taxi medallions. It's
It's a
not
bigger
taxis we're
understatement
talking
than
about
that.
here.
Yeah,
This is
like
one down from going after the Fed, I
taxi
think.
drivers are a tough crowd. Um, yeah, this is it is quite disruptive. I will say that Library Incorporated is not a we don't view it as a political vehicle. We're not going to be um, we're not aiming to be on the to make an example of ourselves, or to litigate. We are going to operate within the bounds of the current law. We do all, the founders, have our opinions about IP. I think that can be demonstrated by our first advisor that we brought on being Stefan Kinsella. Against intellectual property. I think he's profoundly affected all of our thinking. Um, but no, the protocol and the company are two distinct entities. The protocol is a decentralized thing. The company is uh, a legally registered company that's going to try to do business and make money, and we will have to comply with the laws that exist.
Okay. Um, so at what phase are you in now? I know that it looks like it's not quite operational yet. Is that correct to say?
We have an command line alpha release out.
Okay.
So one of the big things, if your listeners are interested in what I have to say, the biggest way you can help right now is to go to our website lbry.io and push the get button, and you can sign up to be an alpha tester. We're actually giving 1,000 library credits to anyone who goes through the testing process, which is very brief, and then you fill out a quick survey. Yeah, we are alpha testing for Linux and OS X, and we're hoping to. Well, one of the different, there are actually some similar competing projects out there, and I think one of the differences, one of the reasons that I was attracted to get involved with this, is that the two original founders, Jimmy Kiselak and Jeremy Kaufman, uh, basically did this themselves. It was like a bootstrapped product. They built it all the way to something you can use, you can test out on your computer with very little money. and they just did it. And I think that's, you see a lot of projects in the Bitcoin space. They're trying to, ride on hype, or you got to give us $250,000 before we do anything, or we're going to put up a fancy website, but we really have no intention of completing a product anytime soon. This is virtually done, and uh, I run my own company. I've got a lot of commitments. I would not have gotten involved if I didn't think that this thing was ready to start getting out there. And so we are. And I think in the next season or two, people are going to see the GUI, as we call it, the graphical user interface. They're going to see a program that they can start to use.
Okay, so early 2016, is that what you're thinking? All right. All right, Mike, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I appreciate you telling us about this exciting new company.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
My guest has been Mike Vine. We've been talking about his exciting new startup, Library. Visit them at lbry.io. I don't know why these internet entrepreneurs don't like vowels, but they don't. lbry.io. And don't forget to visit powerandmarket.com for insightful interviews with the world's leading economists, investors, and financiers like Mike Vine. Until next time, take care.